The village road was dusty. Dry wind swept across the fields. Cracked soil stretched as far as the eye could see. Nothing grew there anymore. At least, that's what everyone believed. "Look at her again," one farmer laughed. Near the edge of the road, a little girl dragged a long, rusted pipe. Too heavy for her size. Too useless, according to everyone else. "Hey," another man shouted. "What are you going to do with that junk?" The girl didn't stop. Didn't argue. Just kept pulling. Her name was Amina. And she had been collecting pipes for weeks. Old irrigation lines. Broken fittings. Discarded scraps. Things no one wanted. Things everyone threw away. Her small yard behind a mud house was now filled with them. A mess of metal and plastic. Waste of time, the villagers said. But Amina saw something else. Possibility. Every evening, after school, she worked. Cleaning. Cutting. Fitting pieces together. Her hands were often scratched. Her clothes dirty. But her eyes focused. "Why do you keep doing this?" her mother asked one night. Amina wiped her forehead. "The land is thirsty," she said simply. Her mother sighed. "Everyone's land is thirsty," she replied. "But no one can fix that." Amina looked out at the dry field. "I can try." That answer stayed in the air. Because trying was something the village had forgotten. Days passed. The pipes began to take shape. Not randomly, but with purpose. A network. Carefully connected. Leading from the old well. At the far end of the property. The same well people had abandoned. Dry, they said. Useless. But Amina didn't believe that. One morning, an old man stopped near her yard. Watching quietly. "You think water will come from that?" he asked. Amina nodded. "Yes." He chuckled softly. "I used to think like you," he said. "What changed?" she asked. He looked at the fields. "Time." Amina shook her head. "Or maybe people stopped trying." The old man didn't reply. Because deep down, he knew she was right. Weeks turned into months. The pipe system grew longer. More complex. More precise. And still, people laughed. "Little engineer," they mocked. "Building a river from garbage." Amina ignored them. Because she wasn't building a river. She was building hope. Finally. One evening. Everything was ready. The pipes were connected. The channels set. The soil prepared. Her small field stood waiting. Empty. Quiet. Amina walked to the old well. Tied a rope. Lowered a small pump she had repaired herself. Her heart beat fast. Because this moment was everything. She turned the handle. Once. Twice. Nothing. From a distance. A few villagers watched. Smirking. "Here we go," one whispered. Amina didn't stop. Again. And again. Then. A sound. Faint. A shift. Something moving through the pipes. She froze. The villagers leaned closer. "Did you hear that?" someone said. Amina ran to the field. Eyes wide. Hope rising. And then, from the end of one pipe, a single drop of water fell and disappeared instantly. The villagers chuckled. All that work, for one drop, someone said. But Amina didn't move. Her eyes stayed fixed on the pipe. Because she heard it. That faint sound again. Deeper this time. Stronger. She ran back to the pump. Turned the handle again. Faster now. Again. Again. The pipe trembled slightly. Then. Another drop. And another. The laughter grew louder. But Amina kept going. Her hands shaking. Not from fear. From belief. Suddenly. A thin stream burst out. Weak. But steady. The laughter stopped. Completely. Because now. Everyone was watching. Amina's breathing grew heavier. She didn't stop pumping. The stream widened. Flowing through the small channels she had built. Reaching the edges of her field. Touching the dry soil. Soaking in. Alive. The old man stepped forward. Eyes narrowing. This isn't luck, he murmured. Days passed. Amina worked from sunrise to sunset. Adjusting pipes. Fixing leaks. Guiding the water. Every drop mattered. Slowly. The soil began to change. From cracked brown. To soft, dark earth. And then. Something impossible happened. Tiny green shoots appeared. Barely visible. But real. The villagers noticed. At first. They said nothing. Then. They came closer. What did you plant? One asked. Seeds, Amina replied. What kind? She smiled slightly. The kind that grow when you don't give up. They didn't laugh this time. Because now. They weren't sure anymore. Weeks passed. The field transformed. Green spread across the land. Small at first. Then wider. Stronger. Healthier. While the rest of the village remained dry. People began to gather daily. Watching. Learning. The same men who laughed. Now stood silently at the edge of her field. How did you fix the well? One finally asked. Amina shook her head. I didn't fix it, she said. I just went deeper. That answer stayed with them. Because no one else had tried. They had given up too early. The old man smiled faintly. I told you, he said to the others. She thinks like we used to. But Amina wasn't done. One evening. She stood in the middle of her field. Looking at the green life around her. Then looked beyond it. At the rest of the village. Still dry. Still waiting. The next morning. She did something unexpected. She carried her tools. And walked toward the neighboring land. The same people who mocked her. Watched in confusion. What are you doing? One asked. Amina knelt down. Started digging. Fixing yours, she said. Silence. Because kindness was something they didn't expect. Not after how they treated her. One by one. People stepped forward. Slowly. Uncertain. Then. They began to help. And for the first time. The village wasn't divided. It was working together. All because a little girl refused to stop trying. The sun rose over a different village. Not greener everywhere, but no longer hopeless. Where there had been silence, now there was movement. Shovels digging, pipes being carried, voices calling out. Not in mockery, but in purpose. Amina stood in the center of it all. Not as a leader, but as the one who started it. "Careful with that joint," she said softly. "It leaks if you force it." A farmer nodded. Listening. Learning. The same man who once laughed the loudest. Now working the hardest. The old well. Once abandoned. Now surrounded by people. Not arguing. Not doubting. Trying. Together. Days turned into weeks. The system grew beyond Amina's field. More pipes. More channels. More hands. Each connection. A lesson. Each drop of water. A victory. The land began to respond. Slowly. Then surely. Green patches appeared across the village. Not perfect. Not instant. But real. Children ran through the fields again. Farmers stood taller. And hope returned. One evening, the villagers gathered near Amina's home. No laughter this time. Only quiet respect. The man who once mocked her stepped forward. His voice low. "We were wrong," he said. Amina looked at him. Not proud. Not angry. Just calm. "We stopped believing," he added. She nodded slightly. "Then start again," she said. Simple. But powerful. The old man smiled. "I haven't seen this place like this in years," he said. "Neither have I," another replied. "Because change doesn't shout. It grows. Day by day. Like her crops." A few months later, the village was unrecognizable. Fields stretched green under the sun. Water flowed through channels once thought useless. And the system, built from scraps, held everything together. Visitors began to arrive. From nearby villages. Curious. Skeptical. Then amazed. "Who designed this?" they asked. The villagers pointed. Not to a man. Not to an expert. But to Amina. The little girl who carried broken pipes. One visitor shook his head in disbelief. "All this, from waste," he said. Amina smiled. "Nothing is waste," she replied. "Unless you stop trying to use it." That answer spread further than the water ever did. Because it wasn't just about pipes. It was about mindset. About effort. About refusing to accept impossible. One afternoon, Amina stood at the edge of the village. Looking at the fields. The same land people had given up on. Now alive. Her mother walked beside her. "You changed everything," she said softly. Amina shook her head. "No," she replied. "We did. Because in the end, it wasn't just her idea. It was everyone choosing to believe again." The wind passed gently over the crops. No longer carrying dust. But life. And somewhere in the distance, water continued to flow. A quiet reminder that even the smallest hands can rebuild a future.